the PlayStation 5 getting NFTs, another huge graphics update just hit your PS5, and the PSVR2 is even more powerful than we thought. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. Let's start off with this PSVR2 news just to get it out of the way. $550 is always going to seem like a lot of money for a VR headset, but the easiest way to think about it, again, as I always say, is to compare it to its two biggest competitors, not necessarily on tech, just like in terms of what are the two biggest VR headsets, the Valve Index and the Oculus Quest 2. The Oculus Quest 2 pretty much loses out in every single regard. The only real benefit that headset has compared to the PSVR2 is the fact that you can use it without a PC. You can use it as a standalone headset, and it gets a lot of the exact same games. And if you buy them on the Oculus Quest 2, you can just connect that thing to your PC and download the PC version of that game for free and get all of the graphics and frame rate updates that come along with the PC version of that game. Of course, you have to use the Oculus app to play those versions of the game instead of Steam, which kind of sucks, but that's a good trade-off that you're not really getting with the PSVR2 because that thing requires the PS5 to be able to be used. But in pretty much every other sense, it's either on par or better than the Oculus Quest 2. I mean, it's taking one of its best features, inside-out tracking, which basically means it's using the cameras on the headset to kind of define the room around you and let you know with a barrier if you are about to hit a wall. It's taking directly from the Oculus Quest 2. And then if you look at the screen, it's an OLED screen in front of both of your eyes, and it's a higher resolution. You're not going to get that screen door effect that you were seeing on the Oculus Quest 1 and that you kind of see on the Oculus Quest 2, but then also that headset doesn't have OLED, so it doesn't really matter. And then the Valve Index is where this thing is more comparable to, and that's a headset, again, that you have to plug into your PC to use, but also it's over $1,000, and then the Oculus Quest Pro is $1,500. So just from a cost comparison across the board, all of the headsets the PSVR2 is competing with are more expensive or worse technologically. And the information that was revealed today is that the manufacturer making the chips for the PSVR2 is a very trustworthy one. I mean, they make the chips for pretty much every smart TV on the market. They also handle Fire Sticks and Rokus, I guess. Like pretty much any device that's in your home, you can like close your eyes and reach out and pick a device that's connected to your TV, and chances are the company that made the chip for that made the chip for the PSVR2 and its controllers. So to see a lot of the hardware manufacturers and hardware critics out there not only give the chips inside of it their stamp of approval, but also say it's probably going to blow people away when it's released is so awesome that I literally just can't wait for this thing. I'm excited to play new games like Horizon Call of the Mountain and, of course, the new Dark Pictures game that looks like it's coming exclusively to the headset. I also want to try out the Firewall game that's coming to the PSVR2 because I've heard that that's one of the best PSVR games that hasn't really left that headset. But yeah, you can pre-order the thing right now and you'll get it day one on February 22nd. This video is sponsored by Aura. Did you know you're 3 times more likely to be a victim of cybercrime than home burglary? And unfortunately, hackers love targeting video game companies. These companies are prime targets because they collect a ton of user data, but they don't have to adhere to the same safety regulations and concerns as something like a hospital or a bank. That's why I'm excited to once again partner with today's sponsor, Aura. Aura is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all combined into one. You might have one of these services already, but if you don't have the tools, it's like leaving your house and locking the front door, but leaving the back door, the windows, and your garage wide open. That's a scary and unfortunate reality for just too many people. I told you guys about my debit card number getting stolen a few months ago, and if I was using Aura at the time, I would have found out it happened a whole lot sooner. Thankfully, Aura scans the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security numbers and sends alerts fast, right to your phone and email. Aura also gives you real-time alerts on suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone's trying to get a home loan in your name. And spoilers, that's a lot of money. Aura allows you to stay safe and anonymous online by hiding your browsing history and keeping you safe and encrypted. Protect your family and yourself from identity theft online at https://aura.com/psready. And it's also linked down below in the description. And if you use my link, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial so you can see how many times you or your family's information has shown up on the dark web. You will not regret checking. Anyway, guys, thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video once again. Let's jump back into it. Next up, we got to talk about PlayStation Plus because Black Friday is rapidly approaching, and I noticed in the last video where I talked about all the Black Friday deals that are coming up, a lot of people were asking about PS Plus Extra, Premium, and Essential. And Sony tweeted out today that PS Plus is going to be 25% off. This is starting on November 18th, but the interesting thing is they literally just say PlayStation Plus is going to be 25% off, and we don't exactly know which version of PS Plus they're talking about. So at the very least, least if they're just talking about PS Plus Essential, 25% off is still a pretty good deal on that. And then once you have a year of PS Plus Essential, you can upgrade to Premium for the discounted rate, and then you're going to get that extra discount. But if this does extend across the board, I am really going to throw my hat in the ring for PS Plus Extra. The library of games that you are getting every month with that service on top of the PS Plus Essential games that you just get every month anyway, that you can just add to your account, I think makes that extra service totally worth it, especially if you missed a lot of the PS4 generation or you didn't pick up a lot of the launch titles that came out with the PS5. I mean, with Demon's Souls, Returnal, and Deathloop right there, you have three of the best games released over the past few years. And Demon's Souls alone, if you played Elden Ring this year and you really enjoyed Elden Ring, I highly recommend Demon's Souls. I mean, this is the game that the people who made Elden Ring said, yeah, this remake of our original Souls game is looking so good that it made us go back to the drawing board a little bit on Elden Ring to improve the graphics to make sure it lives up to that Demon's Souls remake, which like is pretty high praise, right? Like they weren't involved in that remake in any way. A lot of developers you see, like when Arkham Origins came out, for example, Rocksteady does not consider that part of the Arkham trilogy, and they've never really talked about Arkham Origins. So to see From Software talking about Elden Ring and Demon's Souls remake was a pretty cool thing to see. So I feel like that's an endorsement alone for PS Plus Extra, because the lowest I've seen that game go is like $40 at this point. So if you look at it that way, and you also consider that you can get stuff like Ghost of Tsushima's Director's Cut and Returnal, I mean, right there, you're just getting so much value out of Extra. So however this deal works out, whether it's 25% off of PS Plus Essential or you're getting 25% off of PS Plus Extra, I'm going to recommend you either get Essential and upgrade or just get Extra for 25% off. The one I'm not going to recommend, however, is PS Plus Premium. They have not done anything to justify the cost of that service. It's way too expensive. The streaming just straight up doesn't work. I was watching Luke Stevens' video where he was playing through the original God of War, and multiple times he had to stop playing just to like keep his mind straight, because he said you had to do everything a quarter second before you actually wanted it to happen. So if you wanted to parry, you wanted to block, you wanted to dodge, you had to be a quarter second ahead of the animation, which honestly sounds a little bit close to impossible. And while it looked like the resolution was coming through, just that latency alone is why you will never catch me streaming games to a console, whatever it is. I mean, look, I get that it's a cool feature that a lot of people like using to play games that aren't available on other devices, like Bloodborne, for example. People like connecting their DualShock 4 to their phone and streaming Bloodborne through PlayStation Plus Premium now, not PS Now, but I'll just never be on board with it just because it can't even handle PS2 games. And that was a huge deal this month when they added a bunch of Ratchet and Clank games from the PS3 generation to streaming instead of just porting them to the PS2 native emulation that the PS5 has, because the streaming is just literally so bad that you're paying for something that you're not even going to use. And on top of all of that, the classics Sony's been adding since they launched this service have just been mediocre across the board. I mean, there are a few cool games that they've added in there, but the library of PSP games alone that is yet to be added to this service is just laughable. Like, Sony needs to figure out why they're even offering PS Plus Premium, or I would say it's getting to the point where they need to start refunding people, because you literally can't take advantage of most of the stuff you're paying for with PS Plus Premium. So yeah, I'm gonna say for Black Friday, definitely look at PS Plus Extra. You're getting a deal on it anyway, regardless of if you're upgrading from Essential or getting it for 25% off with Extra on its own. Next up, we got to talk about Cyberpunk 2077, because it recently got a 1.61 update, and the feature it brought along with it that I think you really need to care about is FSR 2.1. So if you don't know what FSR is, it's basically like AMD's competition to NVIDIA DLSS, and what both of these technologies do essentially, like they're a little bit different, but just like the basic explanation is that they're running your games at a lower resolution and then they're upscaling them to the resolution of your TV. So the reason you would want to see this in something like Cyberpunk on console is that it makes it so that the game can run at a hard lock 60 frames per second. Cyberpunk 2077 already had a performance mode, but as we've seen from Digital Foundry videos and other performance videos on YouTube, that performance mode isn't a hard locked 60 frames per second. So when you add something in like FSR 2.1 that allows it to run at a lower resolution and then upscale it without you losing any real visual quality, that's what you really want to see, because that gets it even closer to running at a hard locked 60 frames per second. Honestly, I think this technology is what's going to kind of save the PS5 from 30 FPS games as as time goes on, because all these developers have been on Twitter lately saying that they think that a lot of games coming out in the near future that are going to be next gen only are games that we're going to see with 30 FPS modes on the PS5 and no performance modes outside of maybe the 40 FPS mode that runs on a 120 Hz TV. But when you use something like FSR 2.1 in these games, the visual downgrade from native resolution to using an upscaler like this is really not that noticeable, especially if you're playing on a TV and sitting far away from that TV on your couch. I play on PC. A lot of games have FSR or DLSS. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is a great example of DLSS, and you can definitely tell the difference if you're going from like native high settings at 1440p to 1440p high settings with DLSS turned on. You can just tell that it's internally running at 1080p, and also some effects break like depth of field. But if you're having that on console from launch, you'll have a lot of that stuff ironed out because they really are only paying attention to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And the good thing is FSR keeps getting better. For a long time, like even if you compared FSR 2.0 to DLSS, any version really, it was very noticeable that FSR was definitely the inferior technology. But as time goes on and NVIDIA requires you to have the newest graphics card to use stuff like DLSS 3.0, which definitely increases the performance in a lot of games, Cyberpunk included, FSR 2.1 has gotten better and better. And it looks close enough to the DLSS you can use on 30 series cards where I would definitely say that it's worth having on console. And the reason you're never going to see DLSS on console is because the consoles, both of them, Xbox Series X and PS5, don't use NVIDIA graphics cards. And NVIDIA keeps that stuff proprietary. Whereas I'm pretty sure on an NVIDIA graphics card on PC, you could just use FSR, which is pretty cool on AMD's part. So yeah, if you thought the 1.6 update was good for Cyberpunk 2077, I think you're going to want to check out the 1.61 update, because not only does it make the game look better, especially in the 30 FPS ray tracing mode and the 60 FPS performance mode, it makes it run better, which is exactly what you want to see. So now we got to talk about Sony and NFTs, because just like the Call of Duty and Activision thing that seems like it changes every other week, this is yet another thing that seems like it's changing every other week. So back when PS Stars was announced, which is like their loyalty program where you can do stuff online and in-game to earn digital versions of PlayStation consoles, but also earn the ability to skip the line when you're calling to get your PS5 supported by Sony, people were like, oh, this is just PlayStation NFTs. And Sony was like, no, this is not just PlayStation NFTs. It's just a digital rewards program. Nothing you're doing has any monetary value. Don't worry, guys, we're not working on NFTs. But now we're getting some leaks that say Sony is literally just working on blockchain stuff and NFTs. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I don't really know or give a about what an NFT truly is, outside of what I know, which is that it's like a digital item that has some sort of currency value associated to it. And if these leaks are to be believed, things are just going to get so much more annoying as time goes on, because what they're suggesting this stuff is basically like, I don't know, if Dr. Disrespect was streaming on Twitch and he was using a specific loadout in a game like Warzone and he wanted to try it out, you could buy an NFT of Dr. Disrespect's loadout and it would be like a numbered loadout, but it's just like a needless complication, because in our reality that we live in right now, all you'd have to do is just look at his screen when he's equipping stuff to his weapon, and then you'd be fine to know that you could just switch your weapon to have the exact same loadout in your game. So now you're adding a monetary value to all this stuff, which means there's going to be some sort of DLC or whatever the hell you need to do to use Dr. Disrespect's loadout. And I also bet they'll have limited skins, right? Like they're going to say, oh yeah, you can use the free version of Dr. Disrespect's loadout. You can go in and manually change all the different attachments on your M4 in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 5. But if you want to use Dr. Disrespect's confirmed loadout, you got to buy the NFT, and that version will have a numbered skin on it and like a weapon charm that you can only get with this specific NFT. And I think the difference there that they're banking on is that like if Modern Warfare 5 comes out and you're able to do that, then Modern Warfare 6 comes out, you'll be able to take that NFT version of the weapon along with you. But if you ever decide you don't want that original first edition Dr. Disrespect skin anymore, you could just sell the NFT for PlayStation bucks and then use the money to buy a new NFT on the PlayStation Store, or you could just transfer it to cash value. It doesn't matter. No one likes NFTs, and there's a very specific reason for that. It's because they're stupid.